Have you ever felt the weight of something you just can't undo? A word you said, a choice you made, a moment that keeps echoing inside you long after it's gone. Regret can feel like a rock sitting at the bottom of a river. You don't see it on the surface, but it's always there, quietly changing the flow. Life moves on, but some part of us stays stuck, wishing we could go back and do it differently. But time doesn't rewind. What's done can't be erased, only understood, accepted, and softened through compassion. Forgiving yourself might be the quietest, hardest thing you'll ever do, because it doesn't come from excuses or explanations. It comes from this invisible act of love toward the person you used to be, including the one who messed up. The Tao reminds us that everything in life has its purpose. Even the pain, the wrong turns, the moments we thought were failures, they're all part of the flow that shapes us, like a river finding its form as it moves around the rocks. Suffering begins when we fight what already is, when we try to rewrite the past instead of learning what it came to teach us. The Tao says, to accept is to flow. To resist is to suffer. Maybe what you're really looking for isn't to erase what happened, but to finally breathe in peace with what remains. Self-forgiveness isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about finding your way back to center. It's realizing that even in your worst moments, there is still life, still movement, still the Tao running through you. Take ye a breath. Feel it come in. Feel it go out. Notice how nothing in the universe tries to move backward. Everything flows forward. The tree doesn't wish it grew differently. The river doesn't try to straighten its curves. The moon doesn't feel guilty for fading. Maybe forgiveness starts right there, in accepting that you're part of that same flow, imperfect, changing, always evolving. Today, let's walk together through this river of acceptance. Let's see how the Tao can help us release the weight of the past, make peace with what can't be changed, and find rest again in the natural flow of life. Lao Tzu once said, life is a series of natural changes. Resisting them only brings pain. That simple truth holds the heart of forgiveness. What's behind you doesn't need fixing, because it was never really broken. It was just part of a bigger pattern you couldn't see yet. When we look back with judgment, all we see are mistakes. But when we look through the eyes of the Tao, we see only movement, necessary, fleeting, part of what it means to be human. The Tao doesn't separate right from wrong the way our minds do. It just observes like a river, noticing its banks but not clinging to them. Everything that happens to show us something. Even the falls teach us how to land softer, to understand the ground beneath us, to rise again with a little more grace. To forgive yourself through the Tao is to understand that life isn't a straight line. It's a dance between opposites, a breath between yin and yang. There are moments of light and moments of shadow, times for doing and times for being still. When we cling only to the light, we lose sight of the whole truth. Wisdom doesn't live in perfection. It lives in the wholeness of everything you've lived through. Uchad Chipiti Jisi, in the way of the Tao, mistakes aren't punishments. They're part of the discovery. They're the wind shifting the boat's direction, teaching the sailor new ways to steer. Everything that happens to us is an invitation to awareness. And awareness is the first step toward forgiveness. Because once you truly understand, you stop punishing yourself. There's a moment when the past stops feeling heavy, not because it's gone, but because it's finally light. That happens when you quit fighting what was and start flowing with what is. The Tao doesn't ask you to fix anything. It just asks you to notice, not to control, but to accept. Forgiveness, then, isn't something you force. It's something that happens naturally, like a river clearing itself after a storm. You don't have to try to forgive. You just have to give time some space to do its thing, to let your inner waters settle. When the heart gets quiet, forgiveness just happens like the sunrise showing up uninvited. And from that silence, you can start walking the practical path of the Tao, to observe, to be present, to live wu-wei action without forcing. The first step toward forgiveness is awareness without judgment. Before trying to erase the past, just look at it. See it clearly, without dragging your old conclusions along. When you can look at your past the same way you'd watch a river, you realize nothing's stuck. Everything keeps moving inside you, transforming, purifying, dissolving. Acceptance shows up when you stop fighting the current. It's like setting the oars down and letting yourself float. The river doesn't strain to reach the ocean. It just trusts the direction nature already gave it. The same goes for the human heart. When we stop trying to fix the past, we start to see life as heat and rhythm, how it always guides us toward what we need to learn, even when the path looks messy or unexpected. The mind wants control. It wants to label, explain, and justify. But the heart, in its quiet wisdom, just feels, it knows that every pain carries the seed of its own healing. Acceptance doesn't mean agreeing with what happened. It just means acknowledging that it did happen. And the moment you do, you make space for love to breathe again. Picture water touching a rock. It doesn't try to move it or get mad about it. It just flows around, sings a little, and with Chimi smooths the edges. That's what awareness does when touched by acceptance. It stops getting hurt by resistance and starts turning pain into path. When you accept what was, something inside you clicks back into the flow of the Tao. The tension softens, your breath deepens, and your mind starts to rest in the present moment. It's like the wind, once blowing against the river, finally finds the same rhythm. And at that point, forgiveness isn't a goal anymore. It's just what naturally happens once you stop fighting. Watching, really seeing, is what lets the truth show up. Sometimes just looking straight at what hurts you is what kicks off the healing. Because once something's seen clearly, it loses its grip on you. Real awareness doesn't come with guilt. It comes with understanding. Accepting yourself feels like coming home. It's about welcoming every version of who you've been, even the ones still asking for forgiveness. It's hearing every mistake whisper, "I just want it to be seen," and answering, "I see you, I get you, and I still love you." When that happens, the past stops being a cage and turns into a teacher, and from that quiet space of acceptance, the next step just happens, Wu Wei, the art of not forcing. It's that state where doing and being flow together, where forgiveness stops being something you chase and just starts to unfold on its own. When your heart learns to see without rushing, a calm kind of clarity shows up, not the kind that comes from overthinking, but from simply being here. Awareness is like water, clear, patient, and able to hold everything that falls into it. When you look at your past gently, something shifts inside you. What once felt like a mistake turns out to just be a step in the long dance of existence. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was lost. Even the pain had its quiet purpose. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's resting in what is. It's letting reality show itself without the interference of resistance. Suffering grows from trying to change what already happened, but it melts away when you let the moment be. And in that letting go, life starts flowing again. Guilt turns into growth. The Tao says the river never fights the mountain. It just finds another way around. And in time, even the mountain softens, shaped by the patience of the water. Forgiveness comes from that same quiet strength, not from trying to break free, but from surrender. When you make peace with your story, every chapter becomes part of a bigger picture. Pain and peace stop being opposites. They start to coexist like day and night. What once felt like failure becomes foundation. What once felt like burden becomes nourishment. Look at yourself with kindness. Every emotion, every memory, every regret. They're just visitors asking to be welcomed. There's nothing to fix, only to understand. And true understanding dissolves the weight without effort. Forgiveness doesn't happen someday. It blooms right here in the now. When the mind quiets down and the heart opens up, in that moment, you're no longer the one who messed up. You're just the one who's been watching all along. Untouched, calm, wide as the sky. Accepting yourself is like letting the wind pass through. It touches you, cools you, and moves on. No clinging, no guilt, just flow. Once you get that, the past loses its hold. All that's left is life, moving naturally, continuous, impermanent, sacred. That's when awareness becomes the first act of forgiveness. No more fighting, no more blaming, just the understanding that even when we didn't attain no better, we were still learning how to love. And maybe that's the deepest truth of all. Forgiveness isn't a destination, it's a homecoming. A return to the heart that's been whole all along. Ooh, chat, GPT, GC. There's a moment when the effort to forgive yourself just fades, like fog disappearing with the first light of morning. That's when your heart finally gets what Wu Wei really means. The art of not forcing things. Forgiveness, like peace, can't be wrestled into existence. It shows up the second you stop trying so hard. When you quit chasing it, it finds you. Life, in all its quiet wisdom, doesn't ask that much from us. The river doesn't rush to meet the ocean, yet it always gets there. The bamboo doesn't fight to grow. It just bends when the wind blows and rises again when the wind's gone. Everything that lives in sync with the Tao moves effortlessly, guided by something deeper than willpower. In Wu Wei, there's no resistance, no anxiety, just that natural, unforced flow of being. Forgiveness works the same way. It doesn't come when you keep saying, "I need to forgive myself," but when you finally stop looping that thought and just breathe, Forgiveness isn't something you grab, it's the space that opens up when you let go of control. I just saw me point, you realize nothing really needs fixing, just understanding. The old guilt, the memories that come back, the thoughts that pull you into the past, they're all part of the same river. The trick is not to cling to what's already moving. Watch it, feel it, let it go. Like leaves floating downstream, the thoughts move on their own, and the river stays whole. When you surrender to Wu Wei, action rises from stillness. The right words, the soft gestures, the easy understanding, they all show up naturally, no forcing needed. Forgiveness stops being a goal and becomes a state of being. It happens the moment you quit fighting life. To forgive yourself is to trust that existence knows what it's doing. Even in the painful moments, something unseen was guiding you. Nothing was wasted. Every mistake brought you closer to clarity. Every loss made room for something more real. Just like the rain feeds the earth, even when it only seems to drench it, your past has been feeding your present all along, even when it hurt. So breathe, really breathe, and feel this. You don't have to do anything to be at peace. Forgiveness is already unfolding inside you, in sync with the rhythm of life itself. Everything force breaks. Everything natural blooms. That's the heart of Wu Wei, the art of allowing your heart to heal in its own time, your mind to settle in its own way, your inner river to flow without interference. And when that quiet flow takes over, the past stops being a cage. It becomes just another stretch of the path, the same path that's now leading you toward harmony. What remains is presence. What stays is this moment, and in it, you'll remember that you were never really separate from forgiveness, just distracted from your own true nature. Ucha GPT the river that once seemed to fight against the rocks now just flows. The current doesn't try to change its course anymore, because it's learned that every twist and turn is part of the journey. That's how the heart feels when it finally forgives. It stops resisting what happened and starts moving forward with ease. What used to feel like guilt turns into understanding. What used to hurt becomes space. Nothing's ever lost. Everything just shifts and transforms in the flow of the Tao. You start to realize there was never really an enemy inside you. There were just parts of yourself asking to be heard. The one who messed up and the one who judges, they're just two sides of the same soul, trying to recognize each other. When forgiveness happens, they meet in silence, and the conflict melts away like morning mist under the sun. The past stops feeling like a prison and starts showing up as a teacher. It doesn't demand regret anymore, just gratitude. Because without the rocks, the river wouldn't learn to sing. Without the shadows, the light wouldn't know its own glow. The Tao lives in everything, even in what we once thought was a wrong turn. Forgiving yourself is coming back to wholeness. It's remembering that you've always been on your way, even when you thought you were lost. It's realizing that what you called a mistake was really just life moving toward wisdom. When that sinks in, time quiets down. There's no more past or future, just the present. Breathing steady and calm. Take a deep breath, feel your body loosen up, let the air move in and out without forcing anything. Every breath is a reminder that you belong to the flow. There's nothing to fix, only to feel. You're exactly where you need to be, and the river of life already knows how to find its way back to the ocean. Forgiveness isn't the end of your story. It's a return to the silence where everything begins. It's that moment when you stop trying to be someone else and just allow yourself to be whole again. The heart opens back up, light as a leaf floating on the water. May this moment bring you peace. May the weight of what once was dissolve into understanding, and may you keep moving forward, not trying to forget, but learning to remember without pain. If this message hit home for you, share it with someone who's also looking for a little lightness. Take a breath, smile, and let the Tao guide your steps. Because in the end, all we really need to do is trust and let life flow. If this spoke to your heart, let it keep flowing, breathe deep, feel the calm, settle in your chest, and share this with someone still carrying the weight of the past. Maybe a few gentle words can ease a tired heart. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this river of self-discovery and inner peace with me. And if you've got any reflections or lessons to share, drop them in the comments. They're always welcome. Every new thought is a chance to come back to center, to make peace with what is, and to live in harmony with the Tao. Breathe, trust, and remember. Everything that needs to be already is.